Whoa! We're rolling. We're on. We're
baby.
on. So a couple of things. If you're new to Boundless Love, my name is Javier. My lovely wife, Christina. We are the authors of Boundless Love.
That's our baby.
Our baby, Healing Your Marriage Before It Begins. We are a nonprofit ministry that we bring God in the center of your relationship. We had a tremendous, successful week. We had an amazing workshop. That we did rolling, where we created very exponential connections. Connected. We worship and we did a lot of amazing things that came out of that. So we cannot wait to do another one coming up. So we're so happy that you're here today. A couple things. If you feel moved towards this episode that we bring you every Friday, depending on our guests, we are 3 p.m. or 6 p.m. Pacific time.
Because we're bi-coastal.
We're reaching out. Well, we did Thailand. We did Thailand 3 weeks ago. Beyond. So, and that episode is on our Facebook page. If you feel moved, please donate. The donations are tax deductible. So whatever amount you donate, you're going to get a receipt from us, and you can include that in your taxes coming up next year. And today I am super, super excited.
No, I am super excited.
I think we're different excitements here. And I'll share mine later because I haven't shared with you. But we have an amazing couple that we dearly love, respect. And what else?
I already told them they're the most professional guests we've had on so far, and they haven't even shown up yet. So bam.
So would you like to make an intro?
Yes.
Who are we having?
We're having Jill and Colleen. They will share their surnames with you later. But they're both fabulous female entrepreneurs. Colleen is a renegade real estate woman of the day and night, and I'll let her explain that. And then Jill is really like an advocate and a spokesperson of the cannabis movement in terms of its healing properties and just all this progressive work around that information and education. So they both have their own gigs and their own resources to share with you. But today we're talking about spiritual opportunities for growth in marriage, especially around the pandemic, COVID-19er. And what is, I don't know, it just kind of came out. Just like what has been cooking for them individually and as a couple, because all of us, we all know, have had to dig deep, reckon with some fear and anxiety, but also try and really grow together, right? And as individuals through this, and sometimes these moments of harsh challenge can produce, right, the biggest truth bombs, love bombs, right? Life bombs.
Absolutely. So let's welcome Colleen and Jill to Cafecito for two. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Chillax and cool than us. I feel like hot and steady.
Well,
you guys are awesome.
It's nighttime here. Colleen has partaken in an adult beverage. As you know what I do, 420 has already passed. So
you're like, so we chill.
Before two things, because I know you're gonna take over because I can feel the energy. So two things I want to tell you. I want to tell you that to me, and I let Christina speak, you are a true example of an amazing couple working together, being together, loving each other together, and also working with the community. So I just want to tell you that, because every single time that I see either both of you individually or together, that's what I see. You're a true example that I think a lot of couples should pay attention to. And the second thing I'm going to say before Christina takes over the mic is...
Matriarca.
I was thinking, remember the taxi that we took, not the taxi, the Lyft or Uber that Colleen and I, we took about 2 years ago. Imagine if somebody knocks on the door and says, guess what? You guys are going to do something together in 2 years, and it's going to be like, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, dude, you're taking something that I don't take. But anyway, so it's funny how small world, and we're here for a reason. So all you, baby.
And Jill and I are just sisters from,
correct.
I don't know. I really think it's the same mother, but I guess it's another mother, but whatever.
True. Yeah. I mean, thanks for that intro. That's huge. We were kind of reminiscing of how we met. And like, it was just, I mean, we fell in love with both of you when we met you. And I think it's very true. Like, Christina and I are very similar attitudes. So it works.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, this is true. Javi was all this morning. He's like, "You're gonna totally take over today," and I'm like, "Yes, I am."
And the other thing, the other thing that I wanted to point out for everybody who's watching us is that we got a message from someone that say, "Hey, what is Boundless Love gonna do with what's happening out there?" And it was interesting because we didn't do it on purpose. It was just a schedule. We had African American couple last week.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And then
Week prior
to that,
and that week that Mr. George Floyd was murdered.
literally a week, and there was all this right.
Yeah.
And then this week, huge
Supreme Court, baby.
steps. I mean, there's other steps that need to happen, I think, personally. And to me, it's like, I don't have to deliver a message. It's a nonprofit ministry, and where we stand for is Boundless Love. That's the work that we're doing. I don't have to tell anybody what I stand for, because the work that we do and the people that we talk to, that's what we stand for. And I was telling that to Christina. I said, very interesting how God is putting these people, amazing brothers and sisters around us, and we don't have to tell anybody where we stand for, because this is what we stand for. So I just wanted to point that out.
It is pretty fabulous, though.
I mean, my mom always said, live with the spirit and go with your gut. So if you're like doing those things, like the right opportunities, like fall in line in the right moments, for sure.
Yeah,
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
Mhm.
So what has been for you guys, if you're open to go in there, like what has been your biggest challenge, like as a couple or individually, or could you both and during like this time of pandemic? And like, what is your biggest like gift or bonus out of it?
Great question.
We obviously both have a podcast, so that is a natural response to things. So for me, I think my biggest challenge was definitely mental health. So I am very regimented about my morning and the things that I do so that I have good mental health the rest of the day. And when COVID came and took the gym away and took all of the things that I do away, and just, I'm a worrier. I mean, we found very quickly that, it was super depressed. And, to be perfectly honest, moments of like suicidal ideation, which has plagued me throughout my life, but hasn't been over the last 9 or so years. And so that was really mine. And then being able to communicate that, what are you going to do? I couldn't go to the gym. There was just things to kind of maneuver around. So that was kind of my biggest challenge. Maybe her biggest challenge was because I was not doing well.
One of them. No.
Yeah.
I mean, we both struggled, I think, mentally. And it was always a roller coaster, and we were on different tracks sometimes on who's high and who's low. Because
never the same day.
Right. It's always the case. And
Gotta love it.
Our periods still haven't synced, so we're bitchy at different times.
No. My
well.
daughter just had hers, so I'm one day behind her. We're
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be worse.
He's all
Did you ask permission from your daughter?
No, she's 12.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worse if we were synced, because then it's all hell breaks loose at once, but different times it's two different.
Hell for weeks.
Yeah, it's hell for weeks.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all the time. That's not just during COVID. But yeah, I mean, similar. I think the mental health piece was a big factor in terms of being out of my routine. I put a lot of value and my fulfillment around having a more structured lifestyle, and leaving the house and meeting with people face to face. I don't know if I'm a full-on extrovert, but somewhere in between, maybe an ambivert if we're defining it. But I get a lot of energy from meeting with people that I really enjoy being with, and that give me energy and that gives me life. So while you can make up for some of that on these virtual settings and Zoom, it doesn't totally replace it.
No. Yeah.
So that's been hard, and it still is, because I haven't really met with many people in person yet. But I've kind of gotten used to it. but there was a time where, of course, it kind of hit the wall where I was like, I got to get out of this damn house. Like, I'm just like a caged bird in here. And we live in a small apartment together. So as a couple, I guess you could say one of the challenges for sure was just being on top of each other all the time, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
But
like, good news, we worked together before, so we already kind of were used to being on top of each other. It just had this extra. I do feel like we were kind of ahead of the game of couples who maybe have not spent days upon them being the only ones that they see. Yeah.
The proximity factor, right? Like that's something that does affect, like if you don't have as many like physical breaks, right? You're always kind of in each other's space and energy. And it's like, and then boundaries get kind of muddied. Like, where do you end? Where do I begin? Like all that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can't take enough walks. Like, you know.
Yeah.
The walk ain't gonna cut it because you're still coming back to the same
so many walks.
Yeah.
So what blessings have you? I mean, we talk to a lot of couples, and we hear a Cafecito for two, and we interview them, and I think 90% of the couples have found really good blessings and really good gifts throughout this quarantine time. Right? They really happen to do projects together. They initiated something together. They realized they need to communicate in a different way. Any blessings that happen to you, or any strengths,
or shifts
that happen in your relationship that you're like, wow, if it wasn't because of the pandemic, then it won't.
Yeah, I think two off the top of my head is one, we started therapy again. I think that was like
couples Zoom
couples Zoom therapy.
Right on.
So I think that was like a blessing. It just needed to happen. We're big advocates for everyone to be in therapy. So especially like during a time that we have no idea what we're doing, like we're naturally inclined, and something that's Colleen's taught me, why you met us at Best Year Ever, is like, we don't know how to do something, we need to talk to an expert. And so that's why therapy started. But I think the second thing that happened with the slowing down and listening, I think it's ignited a greater passion for social justice, or especially with, you know, everything that got initiated with George Floyd's murder. And even more so than in Colleen, like, I think that's the biggest blessing for me to see. I've always been kind of a loud mouth and screaming at people for not doing things that are right. And Colleen's been very diplomatic, and this has allowed her to, I think,
over.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, that's been, when you say project, that's been the project. I think our like dedicated force combined, even at the beginning of the pandemic with the homeless, and figuring out ways to continue to feed them because, you know, everything was so sparse, and, you know, PPE, right? Is that it?
Yep.
PPE.
Yeah.
Whatever the thing is. So I think that's been like my greatest thing was like, despite the mental health issues, man, the other side of the coin was so beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would echo the exact same thing. Like, when you asked that, I was like, therapy. And as you were talking, I was thinking how aligned we became on this, you can call it a racial equality movement. And yeah, that was more so, I think, a change in me, because Jill's always been a social justice warrior. And it's not to say I didn't care about those issues, but I was just I was more tight-lipped because I had this underlying fear, and I see it in other businesses now, and it's so off-putting. And I'm like, man, that used to be me for a long time, literally until just a couple of weeks ago, that I would just be afraid to take a stand because saying anything that could be considered divisive, that would then cause me to lose business. So, but for something like this, I drew the line because I was like, this is not a political issue. Like, this is about basic human rights. To me, it's like there should be no division on that. And if somebody doesn't want to do business with me because of how I feel about it, then great. Like, it's that attitude of, well, we probably shouldn't work together anyway. And I'm I guess happy to not have that person as a client. So
I think the universe allowed, like, COVID had to happen so that this next
Totally.
moment had to happen. People across, I mean, and this is what we've seen with the homeless, right? So we have limited resources in Baltimore City for the homeless. And as people lost their jobs, as it took a while for unemployment to kick in, the
Right.
resources that were going to what population already needed started to get taken by this population of people. And so, yeah, I think it was just great to watch her passion grow at the same time, because we were able to focus on that. We would have been throwing parties all through the spring. My podcast season would have went until July. Like, we wouldn't have been able to be at protest every week. We wouldn't have been able to do the things we did if COVID didn't happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? How the space just opens up,
Yeah.
right? And it's like totally shifted priorities. And
Yeah.
I just want to, I love it. Well, I just want to like acknowledge and appreciate both of you for being so like on the ground and continuing with your service of the homeless population, because I think when people go into fear even more around obviously the pandemic, they're already invisible, but it's like, I think there was another layer of invisibility, right? Like, it was just like, I just need to get my own like refrigerator full. Like, I can't, with like food shortages and toilet paper, scarcity or whatever. Right. And so I just think that's so awesome and admirable that you just have stuck with it and just gone there and met people where they're at. Because like, as you know, I'm a lifelong social worker. So my whole career is about social justice. It's totally about like, sometimes it's just about physically being another person's presence, right? And acknowledging them and doing what you can in that moment. It doesn't have to be any more than that. So it sounds like that's what you guys are about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are being awake in a spiritual way, and
for sure.
And they're being blind. They haven't, or they're turned to the side. They don't want to really see what's going on. And now they're realizing some of these people are wondering what to do. What should we do? But it has been there in front of your eyes all this time. And I think we're seeing that. And I think it's happening everywhere. Right. And we are realizing that. And I told Christina, well, I've been discriminated all my life since I came, not all my life, but since I came here. So I don't know what people are tripping about. Like, they haven't seen it for so many years. I mean, I've been called a wetback like too many times. I mean, are you forgetting about this? Right.
Yeah.
And I think now it's about really paying attention and see what we can do. And think we touching in all the aspects, right? And our ministry is the same way. It's like, what can we do not to wait for anything to go back to normal, but what can we do as a ministry to help other individuals and really create the unity that we need?
Right. And heal thyself. Right. Like, I totally get what you're saying, Colleen. Like, now you're like, oh, okay, I'm totally okay with people not doing business with me around that. Like, it's just not an issue. Like, you don't sweat it. It's not a loss, really. So when you're healed, like when you are whole around something, it doesn't have that power over you. And I think, that's at least what I think the opportunity to around marriage and relationship is that up close and personal, like, you are healing all the time, right? In this intimate dynamic.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, and that's another layer, right? Or level or per se, but it does resonate out. And I think when there's nowhere to go, there's no escape. Like you said, there would be parties, but there's no parties to go to. You do have to look in the mirror more, right? Like, you have to face it. And I don't know, has that been your experience? Do you guys feel like you're tackling more stuff?
Oh, for sure. I feel like every day we're having conversations we wouldn't normally have, making decisions. And I mean, I think if you're choosing to lead an awakened life, it's very, man, I don't want to say it's like, it's simple to do, but you have to dig deep to find the things, and you have to work a little bit harder to live a life that is like in line with all of these things that you believe. Because it's very easy to make uneducated decisions throughout our
Mhm.
lives. And that's on all things, even like what we put in our body for food, what we listen to, what we
Yep.
say to ourselves. Like we're on autopilot a lot. And, you know, I feel like it's, you know, Javi, I can not empathize, but like what you've said, I've heard that from a lot of friends, like, why didn't you understand before? Like, I've been seeing this a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have that experience, but I feel like, man, a little dumb sometimes because I'm like, shoot, it really was just there. But I think we've been so conditioned to not ask questions, to not do those things that
It's not our day-to-day experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, my favorite quote of Javi's, which I have to say, because I just have to give you some love right now.
Thank you, please.
Is that early on, like, I don't know if it was even pre George Floyd passing, but we were just talking about something, and because this was brewing, right? Like, this is not like George Floyd,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Clearly, this has been in the conversation and building as a society around these issues for a long time. It's been, you know, I think that was a tipping point. But you had said to me, we were just talking about something, and he's like, "Don't talk to me like I'm a white person." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh," I was like, deep, like, okay, and it's just unconscious, like, and I was like, "Okay, thank you for that check." Like, I just got a good necessary smackdown because it's true. It's like, whoa, that's total. This is like a totally different. Big for him, like how I'm relating to what's going on. And I mean, of course we can all relate, but it is distinct.
Yeah. And at the same time, we had a conversation today that I encourage all the minorities. Yes, we are angry, we're frustrated, but at the same time, we need to take a step back and create unity for everyone. We need to be an example. Don't become a victim, become a player, and keep insisting in creating that unity and that dialogue so we can, not as slowly, but we can move towards that togetherness that we have to. And today I had a conversation in regards to Christianity, because a lot of people say, well, you praying for things to get better. I say, no, not exactly. Obviously, yeah, if things get better, great. And Christianity is not really to pray for an answer. What Christianity is loving your neighbor the same way you love yourself. Because if we do that, we come together. That's what we're trying to, you know, that's what I was
beyond.
It's not like don't ask for prosperity and health.
It's not a Christmas list.
It's not a Christmas list, brother. This is loving yourself, accepting yourself who you are, and going to your neighbor and say, man, I love you, my brother, my sister. Let's work together, regardless of the way you see me, regardless of what's happening to you. I'm going to treat you the same way I'm treating myself. And I think if we do that, it's coming together. And I think minorities, I keep telling, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to go outside and protest and yell. And yeah, it is, and cry, and it is. But let's think about how can we move forward and create that unity that we all need, right? So we can heal, because we all damage, you know, from what's happening, right?
Yeah. I mean, and that's like our job as white people, to help this momentum to go and to create this space so that we can hear the crying and the yelling and understand, never be able to feel it. And probably, I don't even know if understands the right word, but we need to look it in the eye and realize we can never let this happen again. Like this is, and I think, like, I appreciate everyone who is Black and brown and has an accent and who has been marginalized, for being graceful for our dumb selves, for taking so long to be woke about it or to be awakened, you know? And I think that is, like, for me, of all of this, the greatest blessing is, like, there's momentum now, and we got to drive it. The momentum can't go away. Like, that's my biggest fear is, man, how many, like, I want it to be consistent days of protest.
Right.
Until it is all settled. I don't want it to end.
Yeah. No, and I see that hope too, like, in terms of our daughters, like they want to go out, but we're, like, a little bit more hesitant, you know, in terms of, you know, they're 9 and 12. So we're kind of, like, more protective, but our nieces and nephews are totally out there and whatnot. And I think that their thing is like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. Like they don't trip. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just a totally different acceptance level. Like they're like, yeah, of course it would be like this. Like it's just there's not any hang up there. Do you know what I mean? And so they're just very open-hearted about it. And for them, it's just kind of like, I don't know what you adults have been doing. But like, come on, like we figured this out a while ago. Like this is how we deal with our classroom stuff. You know what I mean? So it's really interesting to see their generation.
Our friend's daughter was like, I don't remember how old she was when we got together, but we met them on vacation. And so she was probably like 6 years old, and her parents were trying to perfectly craft to tell that Jill was a lesbian and Colleen was her girlfriend. And so they told her, and she was like, yeah, like, that's cool. There's kids in my class that have 2 moms. And it was just like, wait, almost like Sinclair knew, like, yeah, this is, it wasn't a big deal. And I thought, man, that's so awesome. And that's just going to like keep happening. The next generation, I pray race is just out of it. I pray that like we're past all of this.
Yeah, I made a comment to my daughters. We were having a conversation and said, well, whoever you're going to marry, a she or he, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I mean, and they were like, Dad, why are you saying that? I'm like, and because they're opening it up, right? They open the conversation about
and I'm all, you don't have to justify anything. Don't you never know.
Whatever.
Just chill, like relax.
So it's really good that the new generations are moving forward towards that, because that's what we need.
And Lucia, our youngest, I told her about what happened with the Supreme Court this week, and she's all, wait, they weren't protected? Like she was just like wait, that just happened? Like, are you kidding me? Like, oh, okay, like you guys are losers. Like, hello, why didn't that get done before?
I know.
So,
it's crazy with LGBTQ stuff. Like, I'm constant when I really think about the timeline on it. When did marriage become legal for us?
6 years ago.
Like, isn't that weird to think about? Like, only in the past 6 years have we legally been able to be married. Like, luckily, we got married after it, so we don't really think about it that much because
maybe Maryland was earlier, but federally it was like 6 years ago.
Right. Yeah. Because I had plenty of friends in San Francisco that were married, but then I have friends that have been married like 3 different times, depending on the law. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like went back, and then it's just crazy making. But
and us as a Christian ministry, we are, I mean, literally colorblind in that sense. We've been for this since the beginning that we started this. We didn't want to really constrain ourselves or feel concerned that people are going to judge us, or we needed to be careful how we step in other people. Because one thing that I tell people, I said, you know what, the love that I have for Jesus Christ is not going to be taken away from you, regardless of the comments that you say about me. Doesn't matter. And I know what I'm doing right. So, we can argue all day long. You can bring the Bible, you can bring all the books, and we can spend endless conversations, but it doesn't matter, because that's the love that I have for my brothers and my sisters. And it doesn't matter. Whatever you say to me is not going to change either relationship that I have with God and my brothers and my sisters. So that's what we stand for. Yeah.
So we ask this of every couple. So I have to ask you guys, when you think back of like your journey in your relationship and all the lessons, we have a lot of people that are starting relationships that watch this, that are either moving forward towards marriage specifically. What kind of advice, and I know you have some, because we all have earned it, right? It's like we all earned our stripes. What kind of advice or words of wisdom or guidance or like encouragement would you offer up to other couples?
You
can go first.
Well, like we mentioned earlier, working with a therapist, I think, is huge. I mean, I wish we started earlier, honestly, because now that we're doing it on a weekly basis, it's like after every conversation, and if people are weird about the word therapy, whatever, find
Coaching.
a counselor, a coach, somebody to talk to, but have the entire focus be on your relationship during that time, because individual therapy, coaching, whatever, is so different than the relationship between you and your partner. So that's been game changing, and that's only been like for a couple of weeks. But like just having dedicated time to talk about you and your partner is huge. So like one of the things that I think we learned in the last session that we had that was really powerful was like one of the things that keeps coming up for us is how our relationship, I mean, specifically me, but I think more so than you, because she grew up just very independent, and I have more of a codependent relationship with Jill. And one of the analogies that the therapist brought up, shout out Krista, she said, like, it just kind of came through, and she was like, I've never said this before, but I don't know. So she like imagined we're both like eggs, and like we each have to remain intact as our individual eggs. We don't want to break and commingle with each other to the point where we're like, it's just like this mush, yolky, whatever. And then we're like, because like people say like when two become one, like as if when you're married you become the same person. And I think in some ways you could interpret that in a good way, because you have to align with each other and you have to like be flexible and work with each other on things and everything. But like in the egg analogy, it was more related to our scenario where right now we have this like yolky mess, and we have to remember to keep intact each have separate lives that are aligned together, but we have to protect our own individual time, our own energy, our own space, our own sanity, really. Because in our scenario, one of the things we talked about this past week was how Jill always gets really anxious when like I'm running late for something, or if, and it could have nothing to do with her. It's a little different if she's waiting on me to go somewhere, because then it does affect her. But her anxiety is also built around my schedule, and what I'm running late for my thing, or I just sleep in and she knows I'm not going to get to do my miracle morning or start the day right or whatever. So then she kind of bears that burden. So part of what she talked about was like, we have to learn how to separate your life from hers. And you, in her case, it was about both of us, but in this scenario, like Jill, you have to separate from Colleen, and not like, you have to teach yourself how to not worry about her stuff, because she'll figure it out on her own.
Yeah,
that's powerful.
She's just throwing yolk all over me.
You're like,
But I mean, I think it's probably something that people say all the time. In the end, like when you've been together at some point, it's a choice, right? Like all the things in the beginning, it's almost like you are so drawn together by forces, by chemistry, by this, you're not in the real world. And I don't know, maybe year 6, 7, 8, 9, you realize like love is a choice. And although all of those things were there, you can have a choice to have all of those feelings still, but you have to like commit every day to want to stay married, because she's annoying, like literally so annoying.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason,
that's what I'm best at.
It is what she is best at. So
yeah,
I
can relate on many levels.
I can relate. I'm very playful, and Christina is like,
dude,
that's my one of my.
I have mascara up to my eye, and she comes behind me. I'm like, one day I'm not going to have an eyeball because of you.
Yeah. Every morning he wakes up. So he wakes up before me. So Colleen, I'm with you. I sleep in, and he's up there, and he does these dramatic poses like to shock me. So like sometimes he'll like he pretends he's dead, or like, and I'm like half asleep.
That too.
Yeah.
I pretend I'm dead,
and I'll be like, what the? And then, or he'll just scare me. Like I'm like coming out of the shower, and I'm just like had my little like shower moment, and then he's like, ah! And I'm like, and our girls like think I've been assaulted. It's just like,
yeah.
Or he'll text me and be like, I'm coming over right now. Don't tell your husband. And I'm just like, seriously, dude.
Like, she's the worst. She will come up to me, like, we will be in just the middle of nothing. She'll be like, so what's your name? I'm like, this is
I love to role play. So I love pretending like we just bumped into each other.
Yeah.
Like I'll at the elevator, because we have an elevator for our apartment building. Like I'll walk in and be like, hey. And like, and then as soon as I do that voice, she just knows right away. And she's like, she just goes, no. She just responds. She's like, no.
I know, me too. I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about?
I text 2 days ago. I text you, hey, what's going on, sriracha sauce, you hot thing.
I know. I'm like,
are you ready for me? My wife left me today, and she's like, okay, all
I'm
right,
like,
done.
I'll be home in 20 minutes.
On Colleen's Instagram, she has like a whole highlighted story just dedicated to all the eye rolls of she's so
me
good at
being
it.
annoying, I think is how we titled it.
Yeah, her being annoying.
Yep.
That is hilarious. But the TikTok video of your courtship,
Awesome.
that was beyond epic. Do you know what I'm talking
Which
about?
one? Which one? I'm trying to remember.
Kelly's like, there's many.
Her dancing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 When she threw the bike down.
That was like unbelievable.
I think that one is gonna get nominated for the
totally,
TikTok
for
awards
the
coming up,
which our daughters are like, well aware of.
That was not her game though. She like in that video, like she's the aggressor, like whatever.
No,
that
was a fantasy.
Oh, totally me. Like,
like you know, in the beginning.
She has zero game. What?
Babe, I got some game.
None.
She's all like, don't pull this up.
I pulled them bitches.
Well, Javi was an interviewer. He was like, do you have, one of his first questions he asked me was like, do you have any exes numbers in your phone right now? And I'm like, no, because I'm not like into that. I don't keep touch with them. He's like, okay, do you have any like emotional baggage from your exes? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, like not just the baggage, but like when like maybe like the baggage that's like going around he like made this total visual of like the trolley going around. Like there's that one piece back there. I'm like, no.
I also told her, I go, if I go to your house and back in the days, answer machine, I go to the answer machine.
We're so old.
Am I gonna see a message from your ex-boyfriend?
I'm like, dude,
it's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, am I or not? So I'm doing all these questions because I told you I wanted home cooked meals. I didn't want fast food.
He didn't want fast food.
I was ready to really.
Oh, I was like, wait, this is a figure.
Yeah, you're like, Christine doesn't cook that much. What are you talking about? More like
But
metaphor.
I agree with you because in our book we talk about after 7 years of being married, everything exploded.
Yeah, we had a
Why?
major.
Because
that was our blow up.
We didn't really had. I didn't have proper therapy dealing with my dark childhood and things that came out. So when you have that intimate relationship, that person is so close to you and loving you so much, and he's topping in the raw, then suddenly you're like, oh my God, why am I doing these things that I'm doing? I'm like, oh. And then I realized all the stuff that I had. And even before we published the book, I went back to therapy because I was like, I cannot deal with this. I cannot deal with this anger, and I need to deal with it. So I can.
It was another layer
on top of that. So we had like triple, right? I went to therapy, you went to therapy, and then we had couples therapy.
Yeah. And then kind of revisit. But I think, that's the beauty. Like when you're talking about Colleen around codependency, I was like, I can totally relate because that's a lot of what I've been shedding in my marriage. Like in our work together is like letting go of like, no, this is my boundary. Like, I'm okay with this. Like, this is what I need to do right now. And I don't need to take care of you. Like, I don't need to fix you. I don't need to heal you. You know what I mean? And that also goes deeper too as a parent, right? Because I have to work on that all the time with my own kids. Somehow I find it easier actually with my kids. But in any case, it's harder for me with my spouse. But I think that is the cool thing about when you do, like you said, like you stick with it and you go deep and you're willing to heal. like there's nothing better than being with someone and not of them. Do you know what I mean? Like you can have that autonomy, but also that unity and that like that juxtaposition. It's just like it's very freeing. And it's and that's why I think you guys are tapping into with your creativity and you can collaborate and all that. That's just like where it's at, because you can't be the same total entity to be collaborators. You have to have your own ideas and right and opinions and all.
I mean, we've even started. I mean, we do have like separate friends, but we make sure we have like separate interests. We do separate things. We have friends trip. Well, we had friends trips planned until COVID, but like going away with just friends of ours, just to be able to have experiences, especially because you work together. We don't really have anything to talk about. Like we are so intertwined. Like she's proofreading my copywriting. Like I'm at her photo shoot for her magazine. So there's nothing like, oh, this exciting thing happened because it's part of a business report. And so those are the cool things. And I think it's exciting for us to see the other get amped up about something that's not work, to see a passion evolve or, man, you almost forget like there's this other complex human being that lives with you that has all of these like different things and skills and talents and passions that they don't even know yet. And so allowing separate time allows those things to come out. And I think that's what makes kind of a relationship fun as you get older is, a lot of, or at least I thought you're going to be kind of the same person your whole relationship. I think Colleen would agree. I am not the same person she met. Not even opposite.
Absolutely.
It's completely different.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I just want to share too is you get better and more efficient at fighting. Yeah. Because one of the biggest takeaways in all of these interviews with couples, like no matter their background, scenario, whatever, this has been like the universal law is that everyone's like, yeah, the more you're together, you still fight about the same things. Like you have a narrative, right? You have your potholes, but you're more efficient. So they like go faster, your fights, they're less frequent and they're less intense. Do you know what I mean? So you're just like, okay, we're going to have this argument. Okay, done.
I've already noticed that. I've already noticed that, at least because I can control how I respond. Like I will have in my mind that I want to say something, and I've just learned to like pause because I have diarrhea of the mouth sometimes. I'll just like, bleh. But like I've learned to just take a pause and be like, is that going to help the situation or hurt it? And what's driving me to say this? And it's usually pride and stubbornness and wanting to have the last word. So and it doesn't work every time because there's plenty of times that pride still overtakes, my better senses. But there's also a lot of times, like I know at least I'm at half because I know at least half the time I'm like, I don't want to have the fight because Jill's not one to move on quickly. Like I rage hot, like and intensely, and then I cool off quick. Jill stews for hours or days, depending on when she decides to forgive me.
I mean, I just remember everything, so it's just a pot. Just boil it.
I don't remember everything, but I'm a stewer.
Oh, she's the 24-hour effect.
24-hour effect.
Yeah. I'm like totally done. I don't even remember what happened. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, you're still there. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
He doesn't need to make eye contact. He can just be like, he can just feel my energy and he knows. He's like, oh no, can't go there yet. Like, I'm not ready. Like I have a total delayed reaction. And our girls are very similar too. We have one that's just a lover, like she forgives immediately, like she goes real hot, right? And then she's like, I'm over it, it never happened. And then the other one, she will cut you, and she will cut you for days. Like she will, you know what I mean? She will.
Colleen will just hear me say something like, you know what I find interesting, and she's like, I don't know, but it's something I may have done in the last few days.
I already know. Take shelter.
Yes, that's the lead in to watch out for. Oh man.
So I just want to wrap it up, and I have one question that we always get asked when we facilitating pre-marriage couples that come to us and embracing marriage and going through this journey, and they ask us, okay, what do you recommend we do at the beginning, right? Even the first year or the first 6 months when you are marrying somebody. So I don't know if you have some tips, ideas.
Yeah, if there's something in that first year in the beginning of your marriage that you would recommend to do.
You want to start? You want me to say?
You can say.
It's funny because I think like I'm going to rephrase it in my head to, if you were to go back and do it differently, how would you do it? Because I actually don't even remember our first year, and I feel like what we've done in this last year has been so transformative. But I think prioritizing, and you alluded to this earlier, Javi, but like prioritizing your own self-work and working through your own personal traumas, because that just saves you so much heartache later when you're reacting and projecting and whatever, you're like always responding to things that like they're saying, they're doing. And it's easy to point the finger and be like, can you change? Instead of, wait a second, like what is triggering me to respond to that way? And like just kind of questioning our own responses, and what, assessing that as it relates to our past experiences and our traumas, which is hard to do on your own. Again, that goes back again to therapy. And this just speaking of your own personal one-on-one therapy, working through your past, your childhood, because talking to our therapist now, I see so much alignment between my relationship with my parents, and then how I treat Jill in our relationship sometimes. Like how she talked about like parent, adult, child. She's like, you want to be as a couple, adult to adult, but there's many times when you're parent, child, parent, child, parent. So like we lapse into, typically it's parent, child, because that's just like, I am the annoying little sister personality, and Jill is the oldest. Not that it's all about like your relationship and your siblings, but like she's the caregiver. Her mom passed away when she was a lot younger, and she then kind of took care of her dad and her brother, and still today is kind of the go-to matriarch of the family. And so she naturally falls into that role. Me, that's what creates my kind of codependency a little bit, because I'm like the little child. So like that plays out sometimes. So we just have to be cognizant of that. And again, that was only unearthed because of therapy. And it's one of those things, it's like, wow, we're still here, we're doing great. But if someone said, what would you change earlier? It's like just diving in quicker to the self-work and of course, as a couple.
Yeah. And also, and I think for me, I would say show up for your partner, even from the beginning. So if they have a work event, go to it, like be their cheerleader from the very start. It creates a bond in memories that you'll always want to be a part of. And I think for us, life gets busy and was busy from day one. And we miss some opportunities to be there for each other for some big moments. And so I think prioritizing moments of your partner's greatness that you can be there to witness, it does something for you to see that, to see them do something on their own. So I think to prioritize those types of things from day one, what is like my best advice.
And actually, I'll add one more thing. Like from the beginning, prioritizing set time for you to be with each other as a couple, where you say, if you work together like us, we're not talking about work. This is like dedicated couple time. And there's many ways you can do it. But like the way we realized, and this was again only in the last like year, we've done so much like growth as a couple and as individuals in the last year, but we uncovered what our values were as individuals. And then it was in a workshop by a fellow exchanger actually. And also what your individual values and your couple values are and how you align. And we realized that we both value like unity with nature, and we also value connection. And so we married those together, and now we take a daily, this is part of our like miracle morning together. COVID kind of screwed it up a little bit. We're getting back on track, but we have a daily morning walk that we take together, and that's like our dedicated time. So if there's something to bring up that may be like touchy or that you don't really know how to initiate that conversation, like that's the dedicated time to focus on us. I think that's huge to do that earlier rather than later, because we get so busy in our day-to-day lives. We're on technology. You could be in the same room with your partner for hours and not actually be connecting. We know that. So it's like forced connection time.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Wow.
So before we wrap it up, there's two. You're doing such an amazing work. So I'm gonna share.
Miss Jill
Yeah, Miss Jill here. So
looking fabulous.
looking fabulous right there. So if you can share with everyone, I encourage everyone to check out your
podcast.
You take it. You sell it. You sell it, girl, because I'm gonna sell it for you, and then I'm gonna do a good job. So.
Oh, well, you're sweet. So I have a podcast. Season 2 starts in the next 2 weeks, and it's all framed around knowledge and education and activism for cannabis. And it tells stories of people who've used it, from healing cancer to PTSD to talking about the inequality that has been created by the drug war. So check it out. You can, all the podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Conversations with MaryJane. Yeah, thanks for plugging that.
Very
In 2 weeks. And then we have, is it there we go.
Baby.
Double powerhouse couple. So you have something amazing.
This image just makes me want to drink coffee with you, and B, like I want to be like, cheers, Colleen. And then also I feel like I just want to hang with, like, I'm kind of like, what is she looking at? Like, I want to know.
I know, I love it.
It's very welcoming.
Cute. Super cute.
So tell us, this one is a Facebook Live. You invite very good leaders in the real estate industry. Am I right?
Yeah, thanks. So I own a franchise called Baltimore Real Producers, and essentially it's a community comprised of the top 4%, it turns out, but top 500 producing real estate agents in my local area. And it's a franchise, so there's about 100 across the country in each individual market. And there's 3 facets to it. Essentially, we publish a monthly magazine, and then we host events, typically in person. Now we've moved to online Zoom private events, and then we also have an online community, especially a Facebook group, among other things. And so this Reinventing Real Estate was kind of an offshoot of that. It's not branded as a Baltimore Real Producers kind of thing, but because I'm so integrated in the real estate community here locally, I just wanted to, especially during COVID, like that's when we launched it, because I was like, this is such an uncertain time, and I just want to hear different perspectives of how they're navigating this, how they've adapted both their business and their personal lives, and to really pick the brains of some of the most reputable local real estate related businesses and agents in my market, especially those, that are advertising with me as kind of a perk to being a part of what we're doing. But now it's even merged because, COVID's still very real, of course, but like now we have a whole global civil rights movement going on. So a lot of the conversations have been on that and how they're navigating that. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of just like tapping into the wisdom of the local real estate market here. And it goes, of course, far beyond real estate. But yeah, right now it's just a Facebook Live on my personal page, but I am saving them all. And I have no doubt that we'll also then put it onto podcast platforms, as people have been asking, like wondering why I'm not doing that. And I don't really know why either. Just haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, so it's been awesome so far.
So Tuesdays, Thursdays, 11:30 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, what is that? That means 8:30?
8:30 a.m. Yeah. So I sometimes listen a little bit, like when I'm starting my day. Sometimes I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but it looks super cool.
Super cool.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that.
So, well, we just want to thank you from the bottom of our heart.
Thank you.
You are the longest episode that we had in Cafecito.
You're the winners, girl.
Oh, damn, I didn't know that.
Yes, you. We love you dearly. You are
I wish we could hang out.
Such a great example of what boundless love is all about.
Yes, absolutely.
And, I just want to thank you for being so honest and really sharing here in a Facebook Live, what's really happening between couples, right? Sometimes I think we paint the picture, but like you say, you're working really hard, you're creating great stuff together, and you're growing together. So that's the key.
And people sometimes say to us, like, "Oh, you guys seem so together," and I'm always like horrified. I'm like, "What are you talking about? We're hot mess like everyone else." Like, but that's the tricks we play with our minds, right? Like that's what goes on for all of us in terms of being human. So it's just so awesome to be real together and intimate. And just thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Being so generous.
And
thank you guys.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone who is watching, who's going to watch later. We have another episode coming up next Friday, and that one is going to be Pacific time.
Yes. We just move like that, you know.
Yeah, and we just have 6 more guests booked, so it's going to be pretty exciting. We're really excited doing this for the community. And once again, if you feel moved, if you get a lot of value out of this episode, we love your donations so we can keep moving forward. We're a nonprofit ministry, so everything that we done is out of our sweat and
our
book
blood.
sales.
Whatever, it's all good.
And if you haven't bought the book,
it's on audio now.
In audio, buy the book.
Oh.
Yes.
I need to buy
So
it.
thank you.
I had it, but
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.